The cabin lights were still dimmed when I settled into my seat. First class has a particular quiet before departure, not silence, just a controlled calm. The kind that comes from routines executed thousands of times, jackets folded, glasses placed on tray tables. The soft clink of cutlery being aligned just so. I adjusted my cufflinks and looked out the window at the jet bridge pulling away. Another flight, another meeting. Another closing stretch of a process that had already run its course. I wasn't anxious. That's important. Anxiety means uncertainty. I didn't feel uncertain. I felt finished. The folder in my briefcase was heavier than paper should be, not physically, symbolically. Inside were 18 months of work distilled into neat sections, technical appendices, compliance schedules, cultural concessions that never appear in press releases. Every page marked, every margin annotated in my own handwriting. I always used pen, Navy habit, ink forces commitment. A flight attendant stopped beside me and placed a glass of sparkling water on the tray. She smiled the way professionals do, present but not intrusive. "We'll be pushing back in about 5 minutes, Mr. Sullivan. Can I get you anything else before takeoff?" "Just the Wi-Fi card," I said. "I have a few documents to review." She handed it over without comment. I slipped it into my jacket pocket and took a moment before reaching for my phone. There was no rush. The meeting in Tokyo wasn't until the following morning. The work was done. What remained was ceremony. That's how serious deals conclude. Not with drama, but with signatures and photographs and polite applause. The engines hadn't started yet when I opened my email. The screen went gray. A small box appeared in the center. Exchange password required. I frowned, more curious than concerned. Corporate systems timed out sometimes. I typed the password from memory, 20 characters, rotated every 90 days, muscle memory from years of compliance training. Incorrect password. I paused. Tried again, slower. Account suspended. Contact IT administrator. That was when I noticed the plane beginning to move. The gentle backward roll. The barely perceptible shift that tells you the aircraft is no longer connected to the terminal. I switched to the internal messaging app. "You have been removed from this workspace." Still no panic. Panic is loud. This was quiet, almost clinical. I unlocked my personal email. The message was already there. Time-stamped 4 minutes earlier. Notice of termination of employment. Brandon Sullivan. The sender wasn't HR. It was the office of the CEO, Justin Parker. I read the email once, then again. No heat rose in my chest, no spike of anger, just a familiar tightening behind the eyes, the sensation you get when a long pattern finally completes itself. Justin had been CEO for 8 months, 32 years old. Brilliant resume, immaculate slides. The kind of executive boards loved because he spoke fluently about disruption without ever naming what would be disrupted or who. In his vocabulary, modernization was a neutral word. In practice, it meant replacing people with systems and experience with dashboards. He didn't dislike me personally. That would have required attention. I was simply an outlier, too analog, too relational, too expensive to ignore once he noticed me. He called me legacy overhead. I called him dangerous. The email was brief. "Effective immediately, your services are no longer required. The board has voted to terminate your contract for cause due to philosophical misalignment with company direction. Severance contingent upon signing attached NDA. Do not contact clients. Company devices will be remotely wiped within 1 hour." The engines roared to life, that deep vibration that settles into your bones and reminds you there's no stepping off anymore. I sat back and let the moment land. Not the firing, the timing. Justin knew my flight number. He'd known it for weeks, approved the travel himself. He waited until the doors were closed, until the aircraft was sealed, until every conventional response was impossible. No calls to legal, no warning the client, no internal resistance. 14 hours of silence at 35,000 feet. It was procedural, efficient, almost elegant. The safety video flickered on overhead screens. Cartoon characters demonstrated seatbelts and oxygen masks. Around me, passengers watched with mild interest, or not at all. To them, this was just another Tuesday. I opened my briefcase. Inside, beneath the contract folder, was an older laptop, a ThinkPad, scuffed edges, physical ports, no biometric locks. Justin once asked me why I still carried it. "Looks like it belongs in a museum," he'd said, smiling like it was a joke. I hadn't answered. The seatbelt sign chimed off at 10,000 feet. I powered the laptop on. It didn't connect to anything automatically. No cloud sync, no company authentication, just a local drive spinning up the way machines used to. Inside was a single folder, Archive. Every Friday for 5 years, I'd copied my working life into it. Contacts, drafts, margin notes, context, not data, memory. People mistake information for leverage. It isn't. Understanding is. I connected to the in-flight Wi-Fi. Slow, expensive, adequate. The first thing I checked wasn't email. It was flight manifests. If Justin fired me mid-air, it wasn't to remove me. It was to replace me. The Yamamoto signing was scheduled for 9 a.m. at the Imperial Hotel. If I wasn't walking into that room, someone else had to be. There it was. An earlier flight. Departed 3 hours before mine. Seat 2B, Ryan Mitchell. I allowed myself a small breath out. Not laughter. Recognition. Ryan was 27. MBA. Perfect posture. The kind of confidence that comes from never having been the final decision-maker when something went wrong. Justin trusted him because Ryan trusted systems, slides, templates, language stripped of friction. Ryan didn't know Mr. Yamamoto. He knew the file. That distinction matters. The plane leveled off over the Pacific. I closed the laptop and rested my hands on it, feeling the faint warmth of the machine through the casing. For the first time since the email arrived, I did nothing. Silence is useful when you know how to sit in it. I ordered coffee, black. Watched the cabin settle into its long-haul rhythm. Laptops opened. Blinds adjusted. The quiet choreography of people suspending themselves between places. Only then did I open the Yamamoto file. Not the contract. The notes. Mr. Yamamoto didn't trust American companies easily. That wasn't a stereotype. It was history. He believed business was a reflection of character, not optimization. He valued punctuality because his father had taught him that being late was a form of disrespect. He preferred fountain pens because they slowed the hand and forced deliberation. He disliked last-minute changes because, in his words, only thieves hurry. Justin had approved revisions to the agreement 2 days earlier. Legal adjustments, he'd said. Efficiency. I read the red lines carefully. Quality specifications removed. Verification clauses softened. Language shifted just enough to pass unnoticed by someone looking for alignment instead of intent. Ryan wouldn't catch it. Not because he was stupid, but because he was trained not to look for it. The plane lights dimmed further. Somewhere over open water, I closed the file. I didn't email Mr. Yamamoto. I didn't call anyone. I waited. There are moments when action feels urgent, but isn't. This wasn't one of them. What mattered hadn't happened yet. I spent the remainder of the flight doing something Justin never understood the value of: preparing. Tokyo was already awake when we landed. Not loudly, methodically. Even from the cabin window you could see it. Vehicles moving with purpose. Ground crews operating in practiced sequences. Nothing rushed, nothing wasted. I stepped onto the jet bridge feeling the weight of the flight settle into my shoulders. 14 hours gives you time to think, but it also taxes the body. I straightened my jacket anyway. Appearances matter in places where respect is assumed before it's proven. At immigration, the officer looked at my passport, then at me, then back at the passport. "Sullivan-san," he said, returning it with a nod. I inclined my head slightly in return. Not a bow, just acknowledgement. Outside, the air was crisp, clean. A driver held a placard with my name on it. Corporate charter, old relationship, one I'd paid for myself this time. As we drove into the city, I checked the time. 8:12 a.m., Ryan would already be in the lobby of the Imperial Hotel, reviewing notes, rehearsing phrases that sounded confident but meant very little. I wasn't heading there. Not yet. The car stopped 3 blocks away from Yamamoto Industries headquarters. I paid the driver, thanked him, and walked the rest of the distance alone. This was intentional. The quiet walk matters before important meetings. It resets your pace, reminds you that urgency is often self-inflicted. Inside a small cafe, I ordered green tea and sat by the window. No laptop yet, no phone. Just the cup warming my hands. This was the pause, the moment where most people reach for distraction. I didn't. At 8:27, my phone vibrated. Not a call, a notification. Remote wipe scheduled, 33 minutes remaining. I turned the phone face down. When the tea was finished, I opened my laptop. Connected to the cafe's Wi-Fi, slower than the plane but stable, I drafted one email, not to Yamamoto, to legal counsel, Brett Lawson. Subject line, time-sensitive review, Tokyo. Brett had been terminated 3 weeks before me. Officially for redundancy. Unofficially because he asked too many questions about revision authority. He responded in 6 minutes. I'm listening. I attached 2 documents. The original agreement, the revised version. No commentary, just context. While he reviewed, I stood and left the cafe. At 8:41, I reached the Yamamoto Industries building. Security recognized me immediately. No badge check, no hesitation. One of the guards bowed and gestured toward the elevators. That wasn't access, that was relationship. The executive floor was quiet when I arrived. The doors to the main conference room were closed. Voices inside, measured, formal. I waited. This part matters too. At exactly 8:47, the doors opened. Ryan Mitchell stepped out first. He was smiling, not confidently, politely. The way people smile when they believe the process is going according to plan. He saw me. The smile didn't vanish. It collapsed. Brandon, he said, you can't be here. I nodded once. Good morning, Ryan. He looked over his shoulder, then back at me. You're terminated, Justin said. I know what Justin said. I walked past him and into the room. The conversation stopped. Mr. Yamamoto sat at the head of the table, hands folded neatly, his sons on either side, counsel at his right. He looked at me without surprise. Sullivan-san, he said, we were informed you were indisposed. I was delayed, I replied. My apologies. I bowed, fully this time. Ryan cleared his throat. This is highly irregular. He has no authority. Sit, Ms. Sato said quietly. Ryan sat. Silence followed. Not uncomfortable, evaluative. Mr. Yamamoto gestured toward an empty chair. Please, he said. I remained standing. With your permission, sir, I said. There is a clarification that must be made before any signatures occur. Ryan's jaw tightened. This is inappropriate. Legal reviewed everything. I met his eyes briefly, then looked back to Mr. Yamamoto. The document before you is not the agreement we negotiated. Ms. Sato's hand moved slightly, almost imperceptible. In what way? She asked. The performance thresholds have been altered, I said calmly. The verification mechanism has been removed. The responsibility for compliance has been reassigned in a way that exposes your forces to unacceptable risk. Ryan shook his head. That's not accurate. It's standard language. Ms. Sato extended her hand. I placed the red line comparison into it. She reviewed it without expression. Then she slid it across the table to Mr. Yamamoto. He read slowly. No one spoke. This was not confrontation. This was process correcting itself. At 8:56, Brett's email came through. Confirmed. These changes materially alter obligations and could constitute misrepresentation under FCPA and Allied Defense statutes. You did the right thing not contacting them earlier. Proceed carefully. Mr. Yamamoto closed the folder. Ryan leaned forward. Sir, this individual is acting independently. He doesn't represent. You represent your company, Mr. Yamamoto said softly. Ryan stopped speaking. You are the face of its intentions, Mr. Yamamoto continued, and you have arrived with a document that does not reflect our agreement. He stood. That was the end of it. The signing is suspended, he said. Effective immediately. Ryan rose halfway out of his chair. You can't just. You are dismissed, Miss Sato said. Ryan looked at me, not with anger, with confusion. I watched him leave without saying anything. When the doors closed, Mr. Yamamoto turned to me. You no longer work for that company, he said. That is correct. And yet, you came. Yes. He nodded once. Then perhaps you came for a reason. I opened my briefcase. Inside was a different folder. Sterling Defense Corporation. Marcus Sterling had been waiting for my call. Not eagerly, professionally. He understood timing. I placed the folder on the table. This is not a solicitation, I said. It is an alternative. Mr. Yamamoto reviewed the cover page, then the terms, then the signature block. It took him 3 minutes. That executive, he said finally. The young one. Yes. He believes speed replaces trust. That has been my observation. Mr. Yamamoto smiled faintly. Then he will learn. He signed the letter of intent. I bowed again, deeper this time. I didn't stay for the photographs. I walked out of the building alone. At 9:22 a.m., my phone began ringing. I let it. At 9:31, I answered. Justin didn't speak at first. Then, what did you do? Nothing unusual, I said. I showed up. You destroyed the deal. No, I said. You did. You violated your NDA. I prevented fraud, I replied. Those are treated differently. Silence. Then shouting. I ended the call. At 9:45, I sent one email. 12 recipients. Subject: leadership transition, immediate attention required. The wording was careful, factual, calm. I hit send. Tokyo continued moving outside the cafe window where I'd returned to sit. Trains arriving on time, pedestrians flowing around one another without friction. Systems work when people understand their roles. At 10:03, pre-market trading alerts started coming in. Down 11%, then 17%. I closed the laptop. There was still work to do. By the time New York opened, the story had already written itself. Markets don't respond to explanations, they respond to trajectories. And this one was clear enough that analysts didn't wait for press releases or earnings calls. The Yamamoto deal hadn't just failed. It had failed publicly. That distinction mattered. I was in a quiet office overlooking the Sumida River when the first headline crossed my screen. Defense partnership suspended amid contract integrity concerns. Nothing sensational, no accusations yet, just uncertainty. Uncertainty is expensive. My phone buzzed again, not Justin this time. Board members, numbers I hadn't seen in months. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the secure channel Marcus Sterling had set up. Phase 2? He asked. Yes, I said. Proceed. Sterling Defense didn't move loudly. That was Marcus's rule. Capital flows best when it doesn't announce itself. By mid-afternoon Tokyo time, Sterling had quietly acquired the company's outstanding debt. 3 separate tranches, all discounted, all callable. Liquidity vanished overnight. The stock continued falling. By the next morning, it was under $5. Justin went on television. He looked tired, defensive. The confidence that had once seemed effortless now felt forced. He blamed legacy systems, cultural resistance, bad actors. He didn't name me. He didn't have to. The following week unfolded the way collapses usually do, incrementally, then all at once. Clients paused renewals. Regulators asked questions. Internal emails leaked. Ryan Mitchell cooperated fully. He didn't understand the implications of what he'd been asked to present. That much was clear. His testimony wasn't malicious, just complete. When the SEC opened a formal inquiry, the board stopped returning Justin's calls. 2 days later, Marcus and I walked into the building together. We didn't announce ourselves. We didn't need to. Sterling now held the notes. The boardroom smelled like burnt coffee and stress, the kind of air that settles in rooms where sleep has been replaced by meetings. Justin stood near the window, hands clasped behind his back. His suit was wrinkled, not intentionally, carelessly. Chairman Eldridge cleared his throat when he saw me. "This is irregular," he said. "It's timely," Marcus replied, placing the acquisition folder on the table. The offer was simple, $4.20 per share, a premium over the current price, a lifeline. Justin laughed. "This is theft," he said. "We were trading at $46. 3 weeks ago," I said, before the risk became visible. He turned to the board. "You can't let him do this." No one answered. Eldridge's hands shook as he reviewed the terms. "What about leadership?" he asked. "That's addressed," Marcus said, nodding toward me. Justin looked at me then, really looked. "You planned this," he said. I shook my head. "I prepared for it." "There's a difference." The board voted. Unanimous. Justin didn't speak after that. Security escorted him out quietly. No raised voices, no confrontation. Process has a way of stripping drama from moments people expect to be dramatic. When the room cleared, Marcus poured 2 glasses of whiskey. "You want the role?" he asked. "Temporarily," I said. I didn't celebrate becoming CEO. I didn't even sit in the chair at first. I spent the next week doing something Justin never had time for. Listening. Engineers, analysts, program managers, people who'd kept the company functional while leadership chased optics. We fixed what had been broken quietly, restored clauses, reinstated checks, brought back people who'd been dismissed as inefficient because they asked inconvenient questions. The Yamamoto deal was re-signed a month later, no press release, just a letter. 10 months after the flight to Tokyo, I stood on my deck overlooking the Chesapeake Bay. The water was still, reflective. My phone was inside, turned off. I was reading a biography of Admiral Nimitz. There's a passage where he talks about command, not as authority, but as responsibility, about knowing when to act and when to wait. Justin thought speed was power. He wasn't wrong. He just didn't understand that patience is power too. Sometimes the most decisive move is letting people reveal themselves. They fired me at 35,000 feet because they believed altitude meant isolation. They forgot something simple. Preparation travels well, and silence, used correctly, has reach. The best victories don't feel like victories at all. They feel inevitable. And when they arrive quietly, there's nothing left to say. That's usually how you know it's over.